Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Pan-African Traders Podcast. Today, I am joined by Bibusa, and we're going to be speaking about a lot of things. But Bibusa, she's got a lot of experience working with UNIDO, creating the IDEA project, also organizing a lot of events, both on the continent and outside of it. And myself and Bibusa, we actually met on a clubhouse room, and we just kind of hit it off. And it's been really, really interesting learning about the myriad of things that she's been working on. And so before, I sort of start listing out all the stuff she's been through and her experience, I'd love to let her introduce herself and, talk about, who is Bibusa, where you from, and what, how did you get to where you are right now?
Hi, Malobi. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel so humbled and honored. This feels like I've been panicking the whole week, you know that. So I'm quite excited to share my journey. Hopefully, excuse me, someone will get inspired by, what we'll obviously talk about today. Before I introduce myself, just in the introduction, I didn't create the IDEA app. It was created by UNIDO. I'm just part of the super cool team that, will implement it. My name is Bibusa Washington Galande Visaman. I'm saying all my names. I was born I was born in Solwezi, Zambia, which is the northwestern part of Zambia. I am half Tonga, so my mother was from the southern region and my father was obviously from northwestern region. I grew up between Lusaka and Solwezi because I went to a boarding school in northwestern province, but then my father was in Lusaka, so I kind of like moved in between, and also because I grew up from two different home setups, basically. I have 5 brothers. 2 of them have died in the last couple of years. And I am a single mother of a 12-year-old girl called Malaika. I am also the founder and the CEO of Sensex Africa. It's very simple. We're a business platform that wants to have conversations like these ones to be able to inspire each other and just forge ourselves forward as African entrepreneurs. So that's me, Malobi.
Thank you very much, Bibusa. And yeah, that whole story is super, super interesting. And so I guess we'll just start with, right now you're not in Zambia. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Dusseldorf. Coincidentally, it's in the northwestern part of Germany. So I'm a northwestern girl from Zambia living in the northwestern part of Germany. Dusseldorf is a very, very beautiful city, and I've been here for the last almost 15 years now, not that long, actually.
Okay. And what is it about Dusseldorf? Why Dusseldorf? Is it because of the current projects you're working on, or did you just kind of end up there?
Yeah, I did end up here. Before I actually moved to Germany, I was a flight attendant. I had like a super, super beautiful life, flying all over the world. And somehow I got hitched by, a German man who is my ex-husband, but we're, on good terms because of my daughter. And I just kind of, I didn't want to move to Germany actually, because, my parents had died a few years before I moved here. My brothers were still in school. And so I was like, no, I need to work. I need to get my brothers to school. But then opportunity came along. And then when I moved to Dusseldorf, it's not just a beautiful city, but it's very accommodating for startups. It's also the fashion city. It's got the longest street, what we call a bar and restaurant street here, more than 700 bars and restaurants in one area. With COVID now we can't go, but it's not that cosmopolitan, but it's a very, very beautiful city. I mean, not just the infrastructure itself, but in terms of the culture, in terms of the integration process for me as a Zambian coming here was very easy. And I didn't feel like so much of an outsider like I thought I would. And then my
That's
daughter
interesting.
got to school, so now I'm stuck here.
Fair enough, fair enough. But I mean, when you say that as a Zambian going there, are there a lot of Zambian people there, or I don't really know where?
No,
Okay,
no,
okay, so where do Zambians go usually? Because you know how we have all these European countries that are kind of, places for, African people that are ex or moving out of their countries. Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of Nigerians in the UK, etc. Where do Zambians generally go?
Normally, first stop is the UK because of our school system. Obviously, it's so much easier to jump, whether, straight from university to do masters, or Australia because of obviously English as well. So in Germany, I could literally say we could be maybe not more than 100. I could be wrong, but it's a very small community right here. I think
Oh,
because
wow.
of the language. You won't find, we're 18 million people, right? So you won't find so many Zambians everywhere, but
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Because when you said UK, I was like, I don't have any Zambian
you
friends, and I was
see,
in the UK
and
for a long
there's
time.
a huge community there in the States as well. I know in Atlanta and Philadelphia, Philly, as
Mm.
they call it,
Oh,
there's a
okay.
huge population of Zambians. But again, not so many. I probably would say maybe 5% of Zambians are around the world, to be honest, even maybe less than that.
Interesting, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so let's dig into some of the work you've been doing, and you mentioned, you didn't create the idea project, but you were part of it, and you've got the
Yeah.
Sensex. So which one came first, the Sensex or the UNIDO collaboration?
Oh, so the Sensex for sure. A lot of people ask me what Sensex means. So it was co-founded by a group of us, but then obviously went under some management. The S stands for, Malobi, get this, sustainability. So the S is for sustainability, the E is for ecosystem, the N is for networking, the S is for support, because I felt, or we felt like we needed to voice out collectively, and kind of like have a branding where, for example, if I walk into any government office, this happened to me so many times, they're scared to say the name of the company because obviously it's related to, almost
Mhm.
related to another term
Yep,
that we can't say here.
dangerously.
But, and so many times I go into like a whole high level board meeting, and the gentleman is trying to introduce me to maybe a minister, and he's like, sir, I'm introducing you, Madam Bibusa from, say, and then I'm like, Sensex Africa, because I need to help them. But then when I do follow up course, they're always like, oh, you're the lady with the weird company name. So kind of like branding. it's
Hey, you're catching the attention, right? So that's what
no,
matters.
I know. And yeah, so it was born 2017. Before that, obviously, I did my degree in public administration. And obviously, I was an entrepreneur before. That's maybe another story during our podcast. But and then, so when I had Sensex Africa, it was literally born from the idea that I invested so many in different types of investment, but I made so many mistakes because I didn't have a mentor. Two, I couldn't go to a person like you if it's in the same sector and ask what your journey was, so that, business models are different, right? But you probably would say, hey, B, don't plant tomatoes in April, plant tomatoes in May or June, or if you want to look for direct sellers, you need to do that. And so I made a lot of mistakes. And what I found out was entrepreneurs have the inferiority complex. I'm sorry, I need to say that, because we always think, well, if I give Malobi an idea of a business, Malobi would take that idea and would do much better than me. And what
Mhm,
I realized is the cake is so huge.
mhm,
We can all be part of the mitigating of the issues we have in Africa as a whole. And so I thought,
mhm,
okay, what is really important right now in Africa? Okay, we need to have sustainable business models. Okay, we need to do a lot of networking because, for example, you and I met through a networking channel. If you were just in Abuja and I'm in Dusseldorf, we probably wouldn't have met and had this conversation. And then I was like, wait, but how do we after the networking, what do we need to do? So ecosystems, just because you're in fintech doesn't mean you cannot be linked to someone in agri-tech. You cannot be linked to someone to health tech, right? And then overall, the support to give out to these entrepreneurs, for me, that's what I wanted, right? And so I wanted to translate it to what my brothers or sisters could also benefit. And that's how it came about. And then one time I was presenting on venture capital in Vienna, and one of the directors who has turned out to be, I think he will kill me for saying this, but he's turned out to be a brother and a mentor. You know, when you have a relationship with someone in the UN organization, when I mean relationship, mentor relationship, someone who says, listen, you've got so much potential. I see the greatness in you. I want to help you move forward, right? And so,
Yes.
and I was in this big room, and we were, you know, I was doing my presentation, and Bashir had walked into the room, and it was organized by another good friend of mine who's also one of my board advisors. And Bashir just said, listen, who is that girl standing up there presenting on venture capital? And my first thought was that, should I talk to him, or what should I say in the meeting? But basically he booked for a 15-minute meeting, which ended up to be a 4-hour meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and from that day I sat in his office. He was like, listen, we need to empower the young people like you who are talking about the normal terms of how can we Africans understand terminology like venture capital? How can we tap into that? But hold on, actually, our ancestors and grandmothers have been doing venture capital. It's just that we just have like a new super coolish name for it, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and starting from there on, they obviously supported me on my first conference in Zambia, took me on, I mean, not officially, but of course, he's someone I can call, say, look, I've got this project, you know, how do I do it? And they designed this project called IDEA, which is Innovation, Development, and Entrepreneurship for All. And for me, it sat really close to home because the methodology applies to everybody, from the guy who sells in what we call in my language, Kantemba, in the kiosk, right? That is a business, Malobi. And when we look at all these startups and accelerators and incubators, great, they're there. But when they're incubating people, it's normally high-end
Yes,
entrepreneurs, you know what I mean?
yes.
Who already have MVPs, some in a way, or even if it's just seed stage, they're already so advanced that they can write down business models. And for me, IDEA literally caters from the guy who sells in the kiosk to the lady who has $1.5 million as return interest. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So for me, it was like, okay, this is really cool. It's got different types of stages. It's already been implemented and tried in Guinea. Perfect. They had incubation. And obviously the government also funded it in Ethiopia, in Senegal. And for me, I'm like, okay, finally, there's a platform where it's not just a bit inferiority complex to other entrepreneurs and startups. They also feel their part and they are included. But of course, IDEA is such a huge project. The most important part of IDEA is that the government needs to endorse it and implement it. So basically what UNIDO did was it designed a framework, it designed the roadmap and said, listen, we've designed something for you for job creation so that both the informal and the formal sector can go through our process. So it's in different stages, right? Can use our methodology. But what's our end goal? Our end goal is that we want young people in Zambia to create jobs for other people, or we want corporate companies to kind of get this idea of, right, job creation is, yes, we need human capital, but how do we think outside the box and include entrepreneurs? And we just started launching it, and I hope that we can get it started in Zambia. So that is IDEA. But also connected to it is the OYA project, which is Opportunities for Youth in Africa. And that one is specifically for young men and women in agriculture, you know that. And it's so funny. Now that I'm organizing this conference end of June, I mean, since January, I've been working on the concept note, and I am so in love with agriculture. I'm literally thinking, why didn't I just jump into agriculture?
That's happened to me as well. Like the past few years, like I kind of fell into it as well, and like I've just been so fascinated by it. I know, you know, there's the fintechs and the different sort of all
Yeah.
these new blockchain and stuff and cryptocurrency, but for me, I'm just like so intrigued by agribusiness. It's crazy, and it is interesting. It's such a fundamental and essential part of life. You know, no matter how technologically advanced we get, we need to also
Right.
focus on agriculture and agribusiness. So yeah, that I'm with you on that. But
I
yeah,
don't know,
you definitely
is it
no, carry on.
because is it because that when we look at agriculture, I mean, I'm the one being interviewed, but when we look at when I looked at agriculture before, I thought it was such an unsexy sector. I would like to call it that, right? It's all dirty boots, and you know, I do know some people. I mean, my dad was an agronomist. I grew up on a farm, right? So I have, in a way, appreciated agriculture, but I still thought of it like, nah, you know, agriculture is not.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But then I
Yeah,
looked at
yeah.
fintech, and I'm like, no, that is too smart for me. I can't go into fintech. What can I do? I want to be able to kind of like nurture everyone in these sectors. But like I said, since January, you know, and when we designed our concept note, I told my team, we have to really know what we're talking about, because what if the president of Zambia asks us, like, okay, can you explain paragraph 5? And if you've copied and pasted it, you can you can't explain it, right? And I guess it just got so intimate, going, I don't know, maybe 100 times over the document. And I'm like, wow, I really need to go into agriculture. This is
Oh
really
yes.
sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know what you're talking about. No, that's so true, and like you said, it's something that is not really presented in a attractive way,
Yeah.
and hopefully, and you know, the next event, obviously, we can talk about that offline, but we can start talking about how to make it attractive to young people,
Absolutely.
and rebranding agriculture and agribusiness, and yeah, and showing more stories of successes, etc. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's something that should be promoted a lot more in a more interesting and intriguing way. But before I go on to that, you mentioned quite a few things. One of them was the mentorship side, and I definitely agree with you. It's something that's you know, lacking. I think some people have tried to come up with, you know, different apps for mentorship and all that.
Yeah.
So do you believe that, you know, by having this mentor that you found along your path, you know, it's kind of got you through, and you learned a lot quicker, and it took you to the next level a lot quicker, and etc. etc.
Malawi, it saved my life, basically, because you know, with my personal journey, when I came to Germany and then you know, got married, then got divorced, and you know, when you're passionate about entrepreneurship, and even if you stay away from it for a long time, the fire keeps on burning. And there's so many mistakes I made. I literally mentor, and I didn't have one, and I don't have one. I have a mentor that talks to me about me being a single mother. A lot of people, we don't want to talk about the mental health that affects single mothers, especially minorities, right? You come to a country, it's not even English, it's not the Queen's language that you can easily integrate to. It's German. You have no other support system. You know, suddenly from a really beautiful, lavish marriage to now, like, okay, you know, the fat has hit the, you know, the fan has hit the roof now. I need to pull myself together. So I have a mentor that talks to me about my personal journey, how, you know, I can balance all these other crazy and exciting adventures, but also be a mother and raise a child the way I would have wanted. I mean, I was raised beautifully, but this is a different generation for sure. I have a mentor that talks to me about my personal finances, right?
Mm.
Hey, you know, what are your goals? Literally, give me your goals for the next, not 1 year, give me your goals for the next 8 weeks, right? And so before 8 weeks, I'll tell my mentor, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is the plan. And they'll say, listen, you're spending too much money on XYZ. You're doing XYZ. You need to start saving. I'm giving you a homework to save X amount of, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God. So, but you know,
But that's amazing.
yeah, and so I have a mentor that just mentors me in that area. I have another mentor that mentors me in the sense of Sensex Africa. There's a time I went through a really rough patch. I almost lost my company. I mean, I'm in good books with my ex-founders, but that was the hardest journey, apart from losing my parents, of course. But that was a hard journey. And a lot of us start something, go through some fires and rain, and we always give up. It's very easy to give up when you're going through kind of like a battle, right? And I'm so happy that my mentor saved me. And my mentor actually is the CEO of Africa Green Tech, which is one of the largest solar container distributors in Africa. We just won the contract to supply chat, and we're in Mali supplying to the rural areas. So he's my mentor, but he's also kind of like enveloped me in the team, in the Africa Green Tech team, right? And he's the guy who says, hey, you know, no, you need to go this way. You need to stop what you're doing right now, and you need to focus on this, right? And then I have another mentor, which is, you know, the likes of the UNIDO family, that kind of like have taught me on a governmental, I would say I mean, I did public administration, yes, but more like a practical governmental language, you know, how to, because the business language is different from when I speak to you. And the business language is different from when I speak to someone from the UN, which to me is that they're not government, but, you know, very, very official, to the point, right? Yeah. And even if it's to the point, it should have 1,000 words just for one point, just to describe one point. So, so yeah, I kind of like got mentored for that. And I would say it's a blessing, like what my name means. Because not everybody is given an opportunity. There are some people where their journey is only up to a certain time and things don't, you know, go as much as they wanted to. But for me, I've been blessed that God has opened that door for me. And you need to be humbled, to be honest, to be able to be connected to such a level. Yeah, and they have saved me. They have saved me. And then I also did a 1-year mentorship program with Blair Foundation. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, not till now.
Oh, yeah. If anyone listens to this podcast, you definitely need to find out about the Blair Foundation. It's a 1-year intense mentorship. But that was one of the best things that happened to me. And so you have to be really committed to go through the whole mentorship program. So you see, I have gone through quite a few mentors, but that's what makes me who I am. And people need to appreciate that.
That's amazing. And okay, so, you know, I know you mentioned the story of the UNIDO one, but could you like summarize on how was it just organically that you met these people? Or I know the Blair one was intentional, but how did you come across these other ones?
I think it's the kind of thing where, you know, networking, Malovi, networking. And when you come from a genuine place, you don't have any extra motive. And at that time, I'm telling you, I was almost, I guess, 30 kilos smaller than this. I was thin. I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. And I honestly, I was hopeless. But then guess what? Everybody has a gift. You have a gift. I have a gift. My gift is nurturing relationships and connecting people.
Yeah, you're definitely good at that because I've already benefited from knowing you already.
Yeah, yeah,
So.
yeah. That's my gift. And a lot of times we look at our gifts and we don't think they could be something that you can kind of like build a career, I'll call it a career from it. And so it was the kind of thing where when I met Torsten, it was through the former ambassador of Zambia, who was my client maybe 14, 15 years ago before he came to Germany, right? And one time he was like, hey, there's an investor who wants to go to Zambia to invest in a solar panel. I want to link you up with him. And, I called him up and he invited me to his place. And since then, we've been family, literally family, right?
Wow.
And then my other mentor who mentors me is kind of like a relative. She also went through a little bit of what I went through. And so for me, it made more sense resonating to how did you handle what you went through and you still are a successful businesswoman? You know what I mean? And then the other mentor, my business money, that one I had to apply through a platform that my friend was doing a couple of years ago. And we kind of like, I applied and I didn't hear anything. And for some reason we connected on LinkedIn and I'm like, hey, I wanted to meet you like a few years ago, but and she was like, oh, okay. And that's how we started our journey. So all of them have been through networking. And I tell people, don't be scared to connect with people. If you see someone on LinkedIn that you feel sometimes even high there, me, I send them messages. I will send you a message. And if you
Why not? Why not, right?
Yeah, you need to be brave, but then you also need to know how to nurture relationships and know how to understand that some relationships take longer to blossom than other relationships. I'm talking about UNIDO now, but this didn't start yesterday. This started almost 6 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And it's taken all this time to get to a point where there's a trusted relationship between the team and myself as well, because every time there's been a project and they bring me on, or there's been an event and they bring me on last minute, it's never been like, well, if I come in, what do you give me? That's where we make the mistake. We always have this pre-motive, or if I speak to Melobi, what is Melobi going to give me before I offer my services to him? Sometimes just build a trusted relationship. And before you know it, Melobi might be connected to Dangote. Do you know what I mean? And he might not show it. He might not show it straight away, but there will definitely be a situation where, okay, I need to meet the president of this. And a lot of people ask me, how do you know the deputy president's daughter? How do you know the prince of Swaziland? How do you know? And I'm like, networking. It's literally networking.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point because I feel like sometimes we're kind of taught to always want something for something. There's got to be some sort of exchange. I got to get something out of it. But what you're saying is that sometimes you just got to, do it for the sake of it, or just give and not necessarily just try and get something in return. And that's true. Sometimes when I've done that, that's when I've, received more. And even when you connected me with certain people and given to me, I'm like, I don't know if it's a conscious thing or a subconscious thing, but it's like I have a positive feeling towards you, and then I want to give more to you. It's a really interesting concept. Not just trying to get a monetary or some sort of thing out of someone. So that's really interesting.
But even at the stage, I'm not saying that you don't have to make business or you don't have to talk about monetary. You can, there's certain obviously certain connections that I've met is tack. Okay, can I need a project to invest in. Can you find me? Okay, send me okay. But then there's certain relationships, you talk to them with caution. And then when you get to a point when you're like, listen, I can do this for you. I can do this work for you. And this is how much I need. It would be, believe me, it would be so much easier for the person to write and cut a check than you just coming in and asking. And not everyone is like that, but I'm like that. I like to nurture my relationships because I don't think of today. I think of, okay, my daughter is growing 20, 30 years from now, she might need a favor. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I also need to think of, I need to feed her. So I also need to think of ways that I can have conversations with them to be able to get myself money, basically,
Yes,
but
of
not to
course.
feel like I'm feeding off them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a delicate sort of balance there. That's
And
really
that's a gift.
interesting. Yeah, do you think that your daughter had anything to do with this? Did you always think like this, or is this something that happened recently?
Um, you mean about connecting or about making money?
No, no, about no, about focusing on the nurturing of the relationships and thinking, not just trying to get something for the now. Have you always been like this, or is it something that you've come to just start doing recently?
I probably, I mean, I'm called the over generous Bibusa in the family because the I think I say that on Clubhouse. The only time my mom whipped me is because I overstepped and I was too generous. But when it took me, to be honest, not a lot of people actually realize that. We always want to mimic other people's talents, right? Um, and then one of my mentors one time asked me, "What are you good at?" And I was like, "Well, I'm good at nurturing relationships and helping people grow business. And I'm also good when you give me $100, I definitely will multiply that $100. It's like, as my grandmother would say, you've got hands of money. Do you know what I mean?" And she was like, "Well, okay, so you've got two factors here. You nurture people and you also know how to multiply money. But the most important is the nurturing people." And for me, I never thought that is something that I could capitalize and grow and use it as a business model, because that's what Sensex Africa is. It is nurturing you and I to be able to have conversations and work together, or to be able to lift ourselves up to go and talk to, Mark Zuckerberg and say, "Hey, Mark, I've got this cool app. Do you know what I mean?" So
Yeah.
my gift was, I really underestimated the gift of networking. I underestimated the gift of business communication and nurturing relationships. And because of me having Malaika, I think the entrepreneur side, she's naturally learned it because, like my mother would say, "I'm not giving you pocket money this month. You find yourself a way," and and I had to start making cupcakes then, because she was working at the hospital, she's the director there. And just 1 month out of the blue, my mom was like, "Well, Bibusa, you're not receiving your pocket money anymore." And I love shopping. I love clothes. That's why I have a mentor that tells me, "Madam, it's too much now." So, and my mom just kind of like, yeah, said, "You need to find ways." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to make pancakes. You need to show me how to make cupcakes, rather muffins, right?" And she started selling them in the hospital. And then I wasn't getting the full 100%. I was getting only 65%, because she would be like, "Wait, this other one, I'm using it to buy things in the house because that's your contribution."
Got to pay
So
the rent.
yeah, I had to pay the rent quite early on. And for Malaika, one time I went to Zambia and she was like, "Mom, I need money for ice cream." I don't have money for ice cream. Find a way. And you know what? She went into the garden and she picked up flowers and she put them in the water. She was about 5 years old, and mixed them up, and she got my perfume and sprayed. And every client, so the apartment that we stayed in was half apartment, half office. And every client would walk in, she'd be like, "1 kwacha for one spray of perfume." So of course, my clients were, gave her much more. And since then, she's like, "Well, Mom, I need to do this. I need to start this project." She's got her own smaller projects, but,
Wow.
but I don't know, maybe my upbringing and also wanting to prepare her that the world is tough. The world is not nice. The world is not lovey-dovey and red wine every night. It's tough. And if you're not tough, you're interracial kid, okay? You have an African mother, so the world will look at you differently from everybody else. That is black. That is just the truth, okay?
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. So you need to make a life of yourself. Education is very important to take you to where you want to be. But my daughter, a hustling and entrepreneurship, will take you even further than the PhDs. I'm not slashing people with PhDs or masters. I mean, I thank God for them, but and they kind of balance the world, right? But I tell her, like, you want to be like mommy, you gotta have the education on one side, but you have to have the hustle on the other side. So I guess she's kind of like an inspiration.
Yes, yeah, and you're definitely feeding her the right information from a young age. You're preparing her, but that's good. You're giving her the real information and making sure that she understands how things actually work and what's actually going to give her the money. And yeah, so I mean, wow, I'm really impressed by how this has gone. You've really spoken about a lot of really important themes like mentorship, knowing yourself, understanding your skills, nurturing. Another the keyword there again, nurturing your own skills. But yeah, just to sort of round things off, I'd love to learn more about what you're currently doing. I know you touched on Sensex, you touched on the idea thing that you're working with UNIDO. But any projects that are upcoming, what you're currently working on, any, if you want, if you're looking for some sort of collaborations from people, anything, just give it a shout out.
Sure. So the most important right now is I don't know if I'm officially supposed to say this, but I'm sure when you when you put it out, it will be all signed and done. So I've been appointed an incubation manager for Zambia. It's such an honor. It has humbled me to the core, right? It's like I don't even have words for that.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy that you're put in front of directors and they're like, yes, we want you, we believe in you, we've seen what you've done, and we're giving you to Zambia, right? So the opportunities for youth in Africa, which is under UNIDO and FAO, is an initiative to basically accelerate job creation for young men and women, either intending to go into agriculture, already in agriculture. Basically, what we want to do is create activities to empower them, and so they can be able to walk on their own 2 feet, but be able to be in a position where they're able to employ as small of a number as it is, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the 2 first activities is training for e-commerce and e-marketing. That is a new thing, right? The training will be free, but we've identified some incubators that we're going to train them as trainers because we want them to kind of like adopt and adapt. So you train them, you walk with them through the journey, and they are able to train other people so that the expansion of the training of e-commerce and market is more extended. And e-commerce and e-marketing, can you imagine how many of us entrepreneurs had that sort of skill? Because, like even in agriculture, you need to use some, gone are the days where you have to, yes, of course, you have to take your things to the market. But hey, we've got the Africa Free Trade Area now. There are certain products that, are not probably grown in Zambia. For example, plantain is not grown in Zambia, but Zambians are getting more likened to eating, West African food or Tanzanian food. And so someone could build a platform, right? And be able to have an intra-Africa trade rather than, and even exporting to Europe, because these are now known as the exotic foods, right? The caterpillars, the dried caterpillars, the insects are now proteins. So the e-commerce is for the young women and men, so they can learn, and obviously, hopefully, we'll start on other activities, and then obviously expand to other regions around Zambia, but then also other regions around Africa. They're already in 6 countries. So of course, it only made sense for me to run the Zambian side as a Zambian. Yeah. Yeah. And And then also we are organizing the AIT 2021, another humbling event. It's I've been intimate with agriculture because of this project. A lot of the times I do either finance or, we talk about, okay, venture capital, we talk about family-owned offices. How do you, tap into that special niche? How do you get funding? But this time it's been simply like agriculture, but connecting it to innovation and technology and networking. Again, on Clubhouse, I've met people from NASA. I've met people like you who are like, this is such a fantastic idea. So AIT is branded under the OYA because we feel the most people to benefit from agriculture are the young people, because they are the link to the elderly that cannot go to the field and dig, obviously. And they are linked to the community, but they're also linked to the country's economic. So it's such a huge responsibility, and that we need to take them to the next step, right? Have conversations with them, allow them to feel, I'm just a grade 12 school leaver, but I have started a poultry farm. How do I start a conversation with UNIDO? How do I start a conversation with Malibu? Malobi, sorry. And so basically the conference would let them allow to get them involved in the conversation. We'll have government, obviously African leaders there. But then we have a special segment for the disadvantaged young men and women that use agriculture as a mean to go to school. Malobi, you've seen this. Maybe you haven't seen it, but you've read about it. And a lot of times we read about these stories of a young girl, boy who, wakes up at such an hour, walks 10 or more kilometers to school, comes back, goes and sells tomatoes, comes back home, cooks, and then, around 10, 11 sits with a small candle to read, mathematics. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But wakes up at 4 in the morning. That's like their cycle. Because honestly, they believe they want to leave that environment. They want something better. They know that education is the only way. It's unfortunate that a lot of them think it stops by just agriculture and not it as a career. So we want to have partners that would be interested, obviously, in being the believer. We're calling them the believers, being a believer to push these young men and women to be part of that network, right? To be part of, and that's why it's called X-Champ and not X-Champion, because champion under the OYA is like already MVPs, you're already doing well. But these kids, these young men and women are still champions. They're just not champion, they're X-Champ because they need to be mentored. So they'll go through a mentoring program. And when we do get sponsors that would just say, hey, we can sponsor 5 bags of fertilizer. It's from anything that can just help these young men and women. And the good thing about it is we're going to be so transparent that every sponsor or everyone, even you, if you give $1, we will send you a guided report of how we've used, either if it's monetary sponsoring or if you've sent, solar parks or fertilizer, we'll, write you reports on who it's gone to, how the auditing has gone. So that trusted relationship grows to them also, maybe in the future, to sponsor a much more bigger, I would say, the game changer, right? Millions, I hope.
That's the plan. That's the long-term plan.
Yeah, so that's it. And just looking forward to implementing the OYA program in Zambia. That's the 2 major projects.
Wow, I'm impressed. I'm flabbergasted. I'm honored to be having this conversation with you. All these projects that you're working on, they're absolutely needed on the continent, and to hear your story from where you started to these big international organizations you're working with, and it's sometimes you need someone else to also show you how far you've gone, and I think that you've definitely achieved quite a lot.
Yeah.
And the information that you shared, I think a lot of people are gonna definitely learn from it. When you talk about the networking, the mentorship, the soft skills, the nurturing, those things kind of get missed out in the conversation, and I'm glad you brought those things up. And I'm glad we left this conversation organic because, yeah, there's even still so many more questions I want to ask you.
I haven't even told you how I ended up in Germany.
You know, we need a part two. We need a part two because we definitely need a part two because I have so many questions to ask you, but I want to keep it nice and short so that people can take the information and digest it and use it in their daily lives, and then we'll pick things up from where we left off. So again, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. Any final words, any shout outs or anything for me?
I just want to say to someone out there that feels hopeless, everything around you doesn't make sense, literally everything. I would say that I have been in a lot of those places, right? And mental health is something that you shouldn't be ashamed of.
Yes.
You should be able to reach out to somebody, and if that somebody ridicules you, I would say they were not meant to encourage you. And I'm just saying, if I went through, literally, if I had to tell my whole life history, everybody would be in tears and tissues. But what I'm saying is, the fires are there to keep us and make us strong. But you need to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, it will kill you. And life is so valuable that there is no, like what my grandmother would say, there's no problem without a solution, as nasty as it would be or hopeless. And so I'm hoping, as much as our conversations were more business-like, this is a little bit too personal for me. I just hope if anyone is watching this, I just want to say, I don't know you, I don't know where you are, but I'm just saying, don't give up. Just whatever it is, hang on. If you can find me on LinkedIn and just talk to me, I'm always open to talk to someone and be there for them. However, like some strangers were there for me during my dark times. And that's, my name is Bibusa, and I'm done speaking.
They click the mute button. Yeah. Amazing. For those of you that don't know, that's a Clubhouse reference. But wow, thank you so much for that. And yeah, the mental health thing is something that in our community, especially, we need to talk about a lot more. We need to destigmatize it. I think where we are turning a corner. It's becoming a bit more normalized. But it needs to be something that people can open up about and not feel ashamed or people mocking them or anything. So that's a very serious, again, another topic that I would spend another 30 minutes trying to dig deep, because that's something I'm very passionate about as well. But we're gonna have to leave it there, unfortunately. I literally
we'll go on for years if we talk about mental health.
I swear,
and especially for you men, I think for us women, and God has made us in such a way, even with our monthly periods, kind of stress comes out, right? But for men, it's something that really should be talked more about. That, and I'm women empowerment, but I'm saying the men, really, the mental health that they go through, they can't talk to it because there's this ego and responsibility. And I'm happy, and I'm happy that you are passionate about it and can have conversations openly with men, and say it's actually okay. It's okay not to be okay, but we need to talk about it,
No, 100%.
Thank you so much for having me, though, my lovey. This has been an interesting hour.
No, I've enjoyed it a lot. Yes, you didn't even have a sip throughout the whole thing, so I'm impressed. It's you were just going straight for it.
Well, my German side is there's a whole bottle waiting.
Exactly. Amazing. No, that's brilliant. So yeah, thanks again. Yeah, we'll obviously continue chatting offline and on Clubhouse and all that, but thanks for being on this podcast. And yeah, that was Bibusa, and we'll end it there. Have a nice evening, Bibusa.
Thank you so much.